Nam ka dan nyam be sem jen tam je de wa dan de dong ar dan che nyor tu la na me bara yang da bara la go be le chang jo Rinpoche to bara sha.
All mothers, sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in a state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Ti je du sang ma je je hua tu lu nga yi song ge wa la go ma xie hua tu lu nga yi song ge wa la go du de re ne song de Nye ma san ta zam je hua tu lu nga yi song ge wa la go.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Sanje chodan soje chodan lai chanjo partu dane japsun che dake jin soje nam che drola penche sanje droba sho sanje chodan soje chodan Chanjo vardu dane japsun che dake jinso jinbe sonam che drola penche sanje droba sho.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Saga most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Ma nam ka dan nyam be sem chen sam je de wa dan ve ju dan den bara ra cho je ha dong a ke ju dan che bara cho je ha dong a me ne wa dan me je wa cho je nye ren xia dan ni dan che we dan yong ne bara je ma nam ka dan nyam be sem chen tam je de wa dan de ve ju dan den bara cho je ha dong dong har ke ju dan je wa ar cho je dong ar me ve de wa dan me je wa cho je nye ren xia dan ni zhuang che be dan yong la ne ba la cho je.
May all mothers, sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Me zam len jian zha pe dong san yong la jia a zo me jia hua du jian qiang Panji Tian Gombe Shablan Du Tu Da Du Sam Ju Shule Me Jin Jie Lo Xie Jie Jian Yan Ke Mba Xian Ne Jiang Asam Zhu Jie Su Do Bara Qin Jie Lo.
Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world, your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor, Vajradhara, without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father, Jigten Sungan. Continually I think of no one but you. Compassionate One, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I may realize the unelaborated nature of mine.
Saye bo chu chou shen me to zhang zhi ra len ge nian de jian ban de sang ji shen na mei de bu wa ye zhou ku nam da shen tu jiu ba xiu.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields.
On Guru Deva Dragi Nirana Mendra Abardinza Soha Semjen Namje Zambata Loye Cheda Jedawa Che Jun Dumon Tivaye Joye
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the 2 vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Oh, tenen saman samdrek de şu tene da jadanga zu kazan şenek warte de işin yamlen çekwa. Warte çidu tene de şene da şene te şenek semi te da zu kazan. Jadang ti go ne senche de kazan yamlen çektiren semi ti gandar. Semi te la jemba tang lo ba se ni chung so. Wa jadang dan semi te de ramda 안 거면 가지는 세미 düğün도 되는 거면 세미 düğün세 어때 대로게 추조세 너 같은 거 사다 된다 저 초유라 디강 düğün도 이제 요사다 어때는 다 대로게 추초세 베네 칼라 담보세 맨노세 라블라 맨노 세면노세나 삼노다 제 네바 제조고 말이스 맨노세 Masam sedutene, masam sedene. Samo tade shifatene, nyamna chine, tigantara gom jagores, masam se. Mechi sena, tati gom tanda yuna mina zan, tas sem ze mayin wachine, chemba nyamna chin, tigara nyamna chi yame anze, najikyuna mina zamle takchi chi ya, tazuki, jibati maji wachi, taze sem mayin ba, sem nero gom shane, tigara nyamna chi ya, mechi se. Mesem sena, ta mamu batera, 마음바테 제 남포제 용거리에서는 제 양담을 용도 뜻으로 마삼 메셈스 메공스야 되치 다 검도죠 말에 셈네로 가면 나치나 어떻게 보면 아마토제 키믹스 안살바제 검도야 요 말에 메공스 다음에 그 메가세다 데 메가세데 요사로데 메가세나다 남포 용다나 가토고 말에 가고 말에스 안 미나 소 드롭고 말에 메드롭스 안 드롭고 말에스 어때네 메드롭스 어때네 란소르키 호세르네 칼라데 어때 란사샤불에 셈피네로 下过来送的，他就我他说的店呢，他带了个秋州是，我咱确实不是买的有这种这种的，这去学啥的吧？
So good morning, everyone. And so we spoke yesterday about two kinds of shamatha. The shamatha with a focal object and without a focal object. And we did some practice of the shamatha with a focal object. And then next year, we also spoke about the shamatha without. And so we said there is loosening and there is focusing and loosening. There's various different kinds of approaches that we can practice this, but generally they said that there is 7 meditations for the shamatha without a focal object. And they are related, these 7 are related to 6 dharmas by Antilopa. And so the first one, so let's go through those 6. The first one is called do not recall, as in do not think about, entertain the past, let go of what has passed. Then the second one is do not imagine, do not anticipate the future, let go of what may come. So don't think about this or that, or worrying about all kinds of things that could happen in the future. And then the third one is do not think, and that pertains to the present. Let go of what's happening right now. So you may think in terms of am I meditating or not meditating and so on, all kinds of thoughts may arise in the present moment, and that may make you kind of worry about what is happening. Let go of what is happening now. Then the fourth is don't analyze, don't examine, don't try to figure anything out. Trying to wonder if it's like this or if it's like that, or maybe this is what it means, that's what it means, and so on. And then do not like meditate, as in do not meditate upon anything in particular. Don't make anything happen, as in don't control anything. And that also means do not, so in terms of thoughts, we cannot prevent thoughts from arising. So don't try to prevent thoughts from arising, and also do not entertain thoughts. And then the last one is rest right now in your natural state. Just rest evenly. So these are 6 dharmas of Tilopa, which are connected to those 7 ways of practicing shamatha without a focal object.
我真的做的那工作让我不下是娘们去过去的是，我真的先不去把让我不下呢，他对我出去过去啥的，真的，那娘们去过去啥的，我真的这干部吧，这种啥的，写老了有呗，老也没光写先的老了有，他写对吧？老有了，这老光过嘛，是汽车就光过嘛的是，让我了，所以马里是让我下吧。 这所求起个嘛的，像让我小啊，这嘛的，所以嘛的是，多话讲他没他是，但多话的事情用个话，这讲大个嘛是，讲嘛他不今天真的，所我这先嘛原因吧，就讲咱们起个是，多话讲他没他是，没错起是嘛 drop 是，但没错吧，那么多错 drop 个嘛的上，在那么多这个事上，这 drop 那这个嘛的是，先不让说说了，这个讲说说是，我在先不让说了想的这个他讲的说大个是，讲说说是呢。 在可养不起过去的是，但天天讲大多也有嘛吧？可养不起过的是，我们自己等的骗人，所以我对我们自己讲的来不给的是，我这种多，我真的在路边开始呢，什么那时候面呢，小在一些，恰现他来空闲那面，人那面强求特别我在小在看干嘛呢？ semla teso me na chawza chenpo ins. Tela kompin dina na mi changchup tos.
So, the essence is that of these instructions by Tilopa is that we should allow our mind to simply settle in a natural state without altering it in any way. So Gampopa also said that there's nothing to deliberately meditate upon. There's nothing that needs to be done with your mind that causes a certain kind of meditative state. There's nothing to do. You simply need to settle in a relaxed, natural state and rest and in that state. There's nothing actually to do. It's just an evenly resting state. And then also Gampopa continues, and when thoughts arise, do not view them as faults, but also do not be distracted by these thoughts. And on the other hand, he said, do not try to invite thoughts. So maybe you think that maybe I should think about something. So also don't go there. Just don't do anything to your mind at all and let it be as it is in a very open, spacious state of awareness. And so Gampopa says, in that relaxed, resting, and open, spacious state, single-pointed meditation will happen on its own. And then Tilopa said in the Genji's Mahamudra, he said that the mind is without when the mind is without any reference point. That when the mind is without a reference point and you habituate to this, when you become habituated to this, you will attain the state of unsurpassed enlightenment. Or when you habituate to non-meditation, you will attain unsurpassed awakening.
tene da nga rang so sem khu yang bo ji se sem rong wa. Tie na la tene dis gom ja la ins kama ka yes.
So now let's meditate on this for a few minutes. Just allow the mind now to rest completely, evenly, and relaxed in an open, spacious state for a few minutes.
我真的别家庭呢，这里嘛，这是乱当个当初，别家庭他可能现在堂当中你有的是老总，我但也，这趟现在的当中你不在，当时以前呢，这边中国团队那种都这么说的，现在是红板的是下熊，第一个现在这那现在起，这红板已经把血压东西有了，我这当中已经把起，我这个一般的团队那是下头那是这么说。这几天呢，他那里嘛，他现在这几天他当中这里是哪多？所以我在现在这点包在过去了，但我就推出其他有嘛，他那里嘛落的吧。
And now we come back to our text, and so broadly the text is speaking about shamatha and vipassana, and Chitin Sumgen gave a brief example of what they are in essence. So he said, Chitin Sumgen said that shamatha or calm abiding is to, for example, focus single-pointedly on a vase, like a pot, a vase. And he said vipassana, especially insight, is the knowing of what that vase is, that special insight. And so now we continue with the text because we also don't have too much time. And so we're still in the section of shamatha, shamatha or calm abiding.
我真的，他这里的你把当中呢是6年中国人啊，他6年中国的就开始，我就拉萨罗在2趟打巴来是，大趟环那跟南卡拉的是，先把就是2G，但是日本要的是2G过，2G现在是CS啊，我说贴不了，听明白？我真的让路去下，是让路ไป下过来是。
And so now this is the end of shamatha, actually, and now we move on to special insight in the text. It says, maintain the body postures, the physical key points as before, but now focus your gaze straight ahead into space with your awareness slightly invigorated. So this means to have your to try to have a very clear mind, just to really kind of lift up the mind so it's very clear. And then let your mind be relaxed and released in its natural state.
我真的这种多生天的那边我了，这这里是他生，说让我晓得路晓得听我了说生我就当然是的，生我了这这边生进我简单多，让我来把都是他生我的可能都打过是，生我的别强的是看到那我因为可能都看到个我没能，马路拉说听就看到可能都，样的也没，这边咱们都没那么大可能都。 我听着也我打过去，啥了？他sem我经常都是的，有呢，那是都是他去吧去，没呢他没都是我提刚怕他去吧呢，我听着去过去啥了吧？
And then when your mind abides in pristine clarity, look directly at its nature and discover how its nature is, mind looking thoroughly at mind itself. So then once the mind has settled and you're resting and the mind is very clear, and look at that mind. How is it actually? For example, does it have a certain color? Is it white, red, blue? Or does it have a shape? Is it round? Is it more square? And just look at how is it actually. And then if it is a certain way, then you decide on that, you ascertain that this is how it is. Or if you find that it is not this, it's not any of this, then you decide on that. You ascertain that it really doesn't possess any of such characteristics.
我这在那光线来把他去吧，这是我听着他光呢他去吧去过来是， 我他同到了我在那sem这了我中米吧，这些也的汤圆话也用，是我他sem的我中米吧，他看到也是有同他妈出的有嘛的，我送给米吧，他说的也是这些，他就我就七千毛了，干嘛把人就都是七千毛了嘛有把嘛一结论的嘛子，讲嘛子有把嘛一结论采用嘛，没把嘛一困得关的些是。我是从我没办法，因困得关系，但困得什么特别穷口的是，我从多天都我的，但有没你他的的是，有现在在马来没现在嘛，天天他的的是，大过去是吧？我天主在说了，咱们去特别去过去，天把中国的那嘛了，说了话大金，羊呢羊头光别开，那么多多把上说现呢，三不上路，我现呢。三不上路最近那把新年意思，我等到新年才上到三不上路最近那把新年的是，但是新年的我听讲了三名我经常都把它前面马上就他们三星的听明显的三了蛮高三星的也得把些用嘛，这马上个三平那种的人通了的，蛮通就，蛮用就，让了一切就些他就把些穷有呢，我都慢慢些把这当通一点什么多的。我在现在当中，你让也把听众能看到啊。
And then so the text then continues. Having gained perfect certainty by meditating in this way, a clear yet indefinable awareness, which is pristine, vivid, and naked, will unfold. So this having gained perfect certainty by meditating in this way, so you have gained should have gained a certainty as to whether or not the mind has a certain color or shape and so on. And regarding that, actually, the Karmapa Rangchung Dorje had said that it neither exists nor does it not exist. It doesn't exist, even the Buddhas themselves have not seen it as a thing. And it does not exist because it is the basis of all of samsara and nirvana. So it is beyond existence or non-existence. It's beyond those conceptual limitations. And so then it continues, until that happens, so until this vivid and naked awareness unfolds, until that happens, as you meditate again and again with supplications to the Guru, thoughts subside of their own accord, and mind abides one-pointedly, relaxed in its own nature. Until that happens, meditate again and again. So until the mind rests one-pointedly, naturally. And this state is what is referred to as calm abiding or shamatha. And then in this state, the nature of mind is ineffable or inexpressible. It cannot be thought about or described in a certain way. You can't describe it in words. It cannot be thought about or described in a certain way, but it appears to be a clear and unceasing mind, pristine, vivid, and nakedly clear. Dipardora? Oh, sorry, there's more. It is to be seen by not seeing, to be experienced by not experiencing. There is something you are confident or certain about. Nonetheless, it is ineffable or inexpressible. And this is special insight. Lasso.
我的呢，他的城市进步是，但是城市进步是那啥了哈的哇，啥了还开始我说呢，那边弄了这样的昆比呢，那也基本就往推送的，是我到那边去提家，我真的说你们俩去呢，但那基本就往推送没是这相比那路说那基本他过推送没是，看到原天没见别车是看到是，他看到的是要嘛的是，那原天的是这了，那一个人我都是点到要嘛的也是。 마루마토 마키 마루마토 다케 지나자서 다마토 말해서 어때 소소소소 다 냠시 용데 냠나 치거시면 데스레 제 라브 테테티스가레 가보요레 zon레 어때인데 쇼는 마에 대바닝나 현시 我就参巴天的是了嘛女说啥么是吧？他的拉不出个嘛的是， 소소소소 그냥 무슨 영향을 스마도 된 루제 doctor say lab to yak le couple yore zum kusari.
And then the great Brahman said, and the great Brahman is Saraha. So Saraha said, focusing closely on the Guru's words, if one obediently strives, there is no doubt that this will culminate in the co-emergence. So there is no doubt that you will see this innate mind. As it has no color, attributes, words, or analogies, I simply recognize but cannot speak of it. Like a young girl's pleasure in her heart, to whom can this sublime Lord be told?
다 된루제 도레 정도가 되네. 저도 다 소소 냠내치네. 곰잡네 되네. 소셈 내로 타고 답치고 다 냠내치. 다 된루린도 잠때네. 소소소 생각이 고 냠내야고 지유내치네. 저도 하고 홍시사와. 와테 하고 답치고레스. 너한테네 심리 리액션 젠반데가 내가 통지 관초 정도. 나다经过了 소이. 저다 나리나다. 经过了 상마. 다 셈들 상황이 요레스. 光照中呢，上的有的中多。他呢，他光照中的开始呢，南头泡沫出来这种多，南头贵些吧，这商界意思，南头贵些吧，这商界。
贵些。
贵些就可能不多去了。
贵些，
贵些有了，这贵些吧，这商界的意思。这日本我中他吃吧，他确的意思。这日本我中吃吧，他确的意思。我这前把军钱没把你们俩起啊，得根据这种的，我这印度的光小中国这厂的这种的泡沫出来这种有的。
And so basically, then Drupon actually read some of the Okay, so Drupon read a bit more. So this very nature of mind that is pristine and vivid, free from the extremes of arising, ceasing, and abiding, is called Mahamudra, as well as the truth body or the Dharmakaya. And the utterly non-abiding tantra of suchness says. Die 올라면도.
그래.
Die 올라가도 die 운주섬당 응악대. 나야 고마성 삼성이나 디 올라가도.
네. 그래. 주 가르세요.
디
이미 남자 주.
갑도미네베 코나 뉴라 디롱 기젤라 케란타나 송아디 응악당 긴콜라 소파.
네, 디 모델도 내가 다 줘봐미. 내가 통 나다 긴콜라서 내도 심리 릭통 제반 내가 통지 관초 좀당스 나 긴콜라서 이베스라도
어디 고래운 초고서리 간세는 가랑기 이게 담보 디 랍드메네베 코나 귤레 롱데요레 딩올라.
네, 주 롱디엔도.
Oh, okay. For some reason, the order in my text is different. I don't know why. So what? I don't know which text you guys are following. 고란주 베이처 가래도. 인지나라도 해. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Ruben seems to have a different version than me. So anyways, so now then the next verse that Ruben went into was, as this very naked nature of mind that is cognizant and empty, as this very naked nature of mind that is cognizant and empty is the definitive and absolute triple gem, as well as the mantras and mandalas and so on. And so now, so first, Ruben said that if you meditate on this, this natural state of mind, single pointedly, you will eventually know what your mind really is. There's this knowing where you have an experience of what this is the nature of the mind. So if you practice for a long time, eventually you will know. And so then regarding the ultimate three jewels here and the mantras and the mandalas. So this naked nature of mind is the ultimate three jewels. Okay, so Mahamudra explained this in this way. He said that how the mind is the Buddha, so Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. How the mind is the Buddha, he said, is that when thoughts being the four kayas is the Buddha in your mind. And then the awareness, the intrinsic or innate awareness that is unidentifiable is the Dharma. And to practice an ongoing state of mindfulness is the Sangha. Also.
다 나라 대표적 인바진도 와. 인바진은 가시는 뭐 지금 다 정원을 뭐 지하로 이렇게 가다 나니 유세 가서 나이 봐. 대표적이 마편도 와. 대리나나 다다 치랑 나야 돼. 롱량한테 롱량한테 예를 아자네 필요 찍발인도. 그래서 이제 노어서 살바티 인주도 저렇게
Tischina. Höjkinä la yang dingun la dok tiratala.
회의 나게 도에.
Dok.
아래 회의다 인신 잡아도.
Ngarang yikinä la pög inchi chikbare.
안에
Nika di rapte mene be gyu di ding sama tana kirang kingko kuntu sumsunga di ra dingun la re.
안에 내가 지단 모양 만도 너무 뒤질도. 다님이 남자들 스포츠 좀지 반대서 라레 이些일라도 준트 대화대 창조 수준대 대안노 사람도 어떻지 어때네 게 다다들라 이번에 공조 좀대 포모 트리케 들리는도 되네 지단 8월 친가 초대 상이 요래 생각도 셈 포모 트리트 정도 다 리방 오종 당체와 또 봐대 셔랍이 8월 친바레스 tel sem neba sem neba de la samtian is o te chemba junji mi ba nyam sne ya te zon ju is o te dong ni da samo tong ma cha ba te so ba is ta sang yan yi la me ji ba te su chem is o te sim chen tong te gom ja te jin ba is o te sem ke ngo la pa do chim ba chou sang ni o le zong do te ru mo pom chui
So, Drupan, by the way, the text that he's using, that is the version. It seems that it's a different version than what has been translated to English, but the version that he has in Tibetan is the version that Gajin Rinpoche found in that katak that His Holiness left behind, if you remember that story. So that's a sort of like the original version of it. And so anyway, so now we have mentioned Mahamudra instructions on how the three jewels are innate to one's mind. And then also Mahamudra gave an instruction on how the 6 paramitas are innate to one's mind. And so he explains that when one realizes the unidentifiable awareness, that is the paramita of wisdom. And the calmly abiding mind is the paramita of meditation. And to sustain an ongoing state of mindfulness is the paramita of diligence. To be fearless with regard to the profound truth of emptiness is the paramita of patience. To not engage the mind in good or bad, in grasping at good or bad, is the paramita of ethical discipline. And to meditate for the sake of all sentient beings is the paramita of generosity. So,
전에 다른 디토 제가 인치토 조진도 근데 다당에 로도야 회 딘지 거리도 뭐는도
so the version that Drupan here just shows now holds up. That's the version also containing English that has the correct order. I don't know why mine does not have that.
등에만 저 PDF 센터 대해서로
Di kan PDF inchi thola due.
근데 나 PDF는 통마스인데
Okay. Number di usara.
sorry,
Sorry, Drupal only has Tibetan, it seems. There's no English in there. Oh, this one is English and Tibetan. Oh, the Chinese. But then Drupal looks at a different one that only has Tibetan. And then there's a quote by Hevajra. It says, it is mantra recitations, it is austerity, and it is burning generosity, or is the fire puja. It is the beings in the mandalas, and it is the most excellent mandala. In brief, everything is a reflection contained within the mind. And so regarding the fire puja here, we often think that it's when we are burning substances like wood, and it is said that actually the actual fire puja is not burning any substance like wood. The ultimate fire puja, or the ultimate burning, is the burning away of the conceptual mind through one's practice. Understand? And regarding the mandalas, it is the most excellent mandala. So, for example, we have a mandala of Chakasamvara, and when we generate a mandala, we also often we mention that we recollect the pure meaning of the mandala's appearance, and there's a 37 factors conducive to enlightenment. And so basically these are all like 37 different enlightened qualities that we recall by viewing a mandala. And for this purpose, we often paint a mandala, or we create one with sand and so on. So this is to remember the qualities of the deity. But the ultimate mandala actually is to recognize that is your own mind. The Buddha is your own mind.
다들 시파 기제 상의 고som양 상도레스 다 고som트 상도레스 시파 기제가 제리양 마로바 다 나도 샘트 다 딱지치 도진 다 초비요 마바 어때 초비들 마로바들라 추크레스 다제양 망가바들 롱크레스입니다 다 가로야요 마로바 가르이나 요로바든 다 망가바들 롱크레스 티니스미 바데 다 티니 보제 가가지요 마고 제대한데 로라 티니스미 바데 두크레스 온도
And then it says, even the three kayas are present in a given moment of awareness. The Dharmakaya is the nature which does not exist in any form. The Sambhogakaya is its unceasing radiance. So unceasing radiance also means that its nature is unceasing. It will never cease to be. And the Nirmanakaya is the union of both, the unity of the Dharmakaya and the Sambhogakaya. They're indivisible and nowhere abiding.
드네 다티게 농량제도 이미 남자를 세티주네 제바미베 초지군 가파미바 농크이 카운트맨의 주베고 일미츠네 대대노 세셰종 만워샤나.
And then there is a quote by the victory of non-duality tantra. Unborn is the Dharmakaya, unceasing is the Sambhogakaya, abiding nowhere is the Nirmanakaya. Thus is the mode of indivisibility shown.
드네 랑 심리 뉴만 해지지베 이시 랑레 랑센데니 돈니니게 다야미바 대창도르스 네바니 대창도 요레스 대타피데 제조 상마트 창도 요레스 어다 저거든 아주 샘tin 저저심보강 냠네 야고 치토나 대대 셴바데 곰도고야 요 말레스 안한소 다제제람 곰고쇼 조람 곰고쇼 담마다 몽보제 곰고야 참니게 곰고야 대 창마트 저도 저거데 내가 저 샘핀 내려온 소 또베 탐nom시네 어디네 저 칼레칼레 저 디가 도야 치트 어디 컴퓨터에서 배 잠닝게라 이나제 다 저어디 가서 당진이잖아 고마톱 차흐로라가 잠닝게 돼서 저 고마지 당지도 총 당도야 제렘도 저 고마나 되네 가서 대여로 제렘도 저 고마는 제 랑위트서 다 르위트서 라하동 파 자통도 못 들고 고마송 제 르위 당지 총도야 노 어다 되는 용기로 와테인데 대 성만데 다 저어도 저 또비지 어들에스네 이 제양마로 봐 시랍동반 당제양만가 니제스 디니스미바 동니니게 일미 바테보 세바데 디니보 동니니게 이엘미바레스.
And so then it says, the innate nature of your mind, the primordial co-emergent awareness, which is self-aware and self-luminous, is the indivisibility of emptiness and compassion, the indivisibility of the two truths, the indivisibility of skillful means and wisdom, and the indivisibility of the generation and the completion stages. Regarding this, now everything is, let's finish this first. The nature of mind which exists as nothing is emptiness, the wisdom. Its unceasing radiance is compassion, the skillful means. Both being not different is the indivisibility of emptiness and compassion. And so what this is telling us is that everything is already complete within your own mind. So in other words, if you meditate on Mahamudra well, there's nothing, no other meditation, no other practice that is needed. And of course, there are various practices that we say we do need. So we practice the deity, the visualization of the deity, and then there's the completion stage, and then we also cultivate love and compassion and so on. And all of these different practices are only methods in order for us to realize the nature of the mind ultimately. So for example, we practice love and compassion because our self-grasping is very strong. And because of that, we are unable to properly meditate. So we have to eliminate this fixation to a self first. That is why we cultivate love and compassion, and then the self goes away. Or we visualize the deity, ourselves as the deity, the rainbow-like form of the deity. That is because we have a strong fixation to our ordinary body. And when we see ourselves as the deity, then that diminishes. So all of these different practices ultimately are a method for us to realize the nature of the mind.
미마 제주말라레바 대 쇼디도 대 냐남세 사자제요. 와테라 대 가담 메게히 들luc하게 요반다. 어때 다 제주말라
Aber dort Sacha?
냐남
Yanam Rarere.
어디더라 라치 파쇼 제블로라 봐. 냐남세나. 어디라 대 가담 게히 카게야서 대 제주말라 자 남자 되게 야고 자 단초야요 말아서 치대 너무 자 로 텔르다 레스타 페데로와. 제지만 데 스케다 차서 데 가담 게게 속. 아 말아래파 지당의 추원의 좀 안사레스로. 在一起，你那他做嘛？那没那，可那地方啊，从城里这把城里闹些东西，可怕看里不出东西。哦，但是他这当啊做啊，在出国家，在不那也会有嘛的是，他做把家头的是，做把家都怕不头的是，但是可能做吃把茶还是当啊噻，做把讲还没那的吧。但是没那的吧，在那做把在家在送的。哦，但是这可能从嘛家头是那没那的。 대 공도 배 대바나 제 조바장가 저바 좀 피소사 대소 성마 대바지 말아리 너무 차소사리 대 대제나 아 되네 니마 제 냐남터라 투존더 진보 제 당요사리 어디가라 대 말아리 파 된대슈 파조 대 가담 되게 탈로세 제 로통세 니요사리 공이 조 집에 대 차바조 된대슈 초제 말아리 파조 쇼 디고라 레파조 쇼 确实了，他给些那把你做起，他要的根据把这修，这才起有啥的呀？他这个嘛，他做把当下来，吃把中药了吧？我听说的研究起的是强度的通往啥了吧？现在工作在这个些你不别空说啥，他们那里边那个做点把一品都是的，啊这是工作在一起的卡了嘛了吧？晓得，但是那做把大头这种。 做把家东西，这没那个可是种那做把家买偏多嘛，做这个做，就当时当这些年不做，当这年不送，娘是呢，娘做娘们来吃这些不干的晓得呢，这一路多话是娘吃东西都是我种多，我一路多话是娘吃东西。
yen lo to pa?
一路多话的多话。
yen lo.
一路多话的娘这东西都是的，啊，说他当这做把家嘛家，他就在当这钱多呀，买穷多呀，家要嘛的，提买几当啊做这的些。 说，你们俩要和我去学真多。哦，这听着问啥？但是我前那路多的，这什么？那路看你们俩去的，这什么？那长多啥的？这热情家家兰州几对么啦的别，他热情做把家子的了，做把家做别下讲做家干做的，他做把家嘛家，就什么写要做有嘛的是，就什么写工上级过的是，上级要来过么过的是，我的中多，那个。 做把做的家都可能用几下回来嘛，那什么人特别搞的好不的是，这光都在上级那是什么使用的也是多。
And so, one time when I the story of Milarepa, so at one point, Milarepa was staying in Yanang, and there were some Kadampa geishas at that time, and they have heard about Milarepa. He has already become quite famous, and he was basically going through the area, like singing songs and not wearing proper robes, and they were a bit offended by Milarepa's appearance, and they thought that he probably doesn't really know much about the Dharma, but still his activities are somehow spreading really widely. It wouldn't look really good if we just went to a fight with him and try to have him leave. But it would be better if we just challenge him and debate him. So then that's what they did. They organized a debating event with Milarepa. And so basically in the end of that, Milarepa was able to answer all of their questions. And then there were those geishas there, those teachers there, who then all became Milarepa's disciples. They all cultivated devotion to Milarepa. And so then later, at some point, there was a festival in Yanang, to which Milarepa and his students were also invited. And so among them were also those geishas. They were Talo and Lotun, those geishas who then became his disciples. And were some Repas, some of Milarepa's disciples. And so Milarepa's people were all sitting on the one side of the celebration, and then the the hosting geishas were sitting all on the other side. And so there were those three monks, right, who became Milarepa's disciples before. And now they became yogis, and they were sitting in the crowd drinking beer. And then when those geishas saw that, they got really angry. And you probably can't really blame them because they thought that they're here. First, they were these great monks, and now they're here drinking beer. And they thought that Milarepa is really someone who is going to destroy the Buddha's teachings. But then again, they felt like there's no point in fighting. So they challenged him in debate. And so then basically what emerged at the end of this debate is that Milarepa then convinced them that all Dharma practice in the end
어,
comes.
这里没得，这是냠야讲，去年东北你讲了，我是去年东北，接触在用么建筑，其他的那沿路在哪下龙都是我这里。
Die kare nyamshak.
냠야去年东北你讲了，下呢， 接触讲了，用么建筑建筑去呢，的那沿路都是哪下龙都是。
Okay. And so he convinced them that ultimately all Dharma practice is in order for us to eliminate self-grasping and to realize how things really are. And so then he explains that there are various practices, but ultimately it all comes down to one, and that is that ultimate state of Mahamudra, where you rest in a meditative state of equipoise and empty, a state of emptiness, of in a state like in the natural state of how things actually are, and in your meditation session, and then in the post-meditative state. And this realization of how things really are itself then becomes the antidote to the afflictive emotions. And so then in this way he convinced them all. And then also, if you remember the previous story of when Rinpoche went to India to bring back a lot of scriptures, and so among them were also scriptures that kind of contained debating materials. And so also Milarepa here said that there's no point in learning all about debating because you can't really ever understand all phenomena in order to attain enlightenment. There's no need to know every single phenomenon, but in order to attain enlightenment, you have to tame the self. You have to meditate, and if you meditate, you will know everything naturally. But it's impossible to meditate on everything.
等到他那里头，你们家里那商界工具公配通，是吧？他商界工具在下面那路，他商界工具公配通大的，我的是，东年人家也没是吧？东年人家也没把这拿着，就ว่า先给我这个厂是吧？他第三嘛，他先给我的厂都的是的，你们那去做么的嘞？他就是么来的，这种的，可是瞧在全部工具是弄啊，个就是马从这没做一些研究，马就你们忙学生了吧？ 这乔在进步，但乔在进步，光没考虑到，这当这东西给就七个给的，我说马头呢，光马头那七个的，但乔在进步，光没过那的，那就七个人嘛吧？我这乔在进步，光对着，东西给就马从些，东西给就他口进步，东西这没错一些，人是没错一些，马就你们刚那学是他不能不学这种了，
大部分不是看送人
啊，
大部分不是看送人，
他不能不学刚了送的这题菜的。
哦，大部分不是了，
这种我听的，我做我听行子，我做行子，今大小在进步，工具也就都先把七个什么什么这种啊，这我听我做的，小在进步可那路讲，我那的有点不过那的呢，给就长嘛在长都是这种说，这样子那嘛他那我做，那各种啊给就开进步几个月的，说那么操作过去的。
And so then it says in the text, okay, the meaning as known by all Buddhas is the indivisibility of emptiness and compassion, which is the singular nature of mind. So that's from the Victory of Non-Duality Tantra. And Milarepa also once told Gampopa said that when you practice Mahamudra, do not make yourself busy with virtuous deeds of body and speech. Only stay in a state of Mahamudra. And so, or rest within the state that is uncontrived, the unfabricated state that is effortless and does not do anything, engages in any activity. And so that is now, Milarepa meant that when you are practicing Mahamudra, so in that state of Mahamudra, there's nothing else that needs to be done with body and speech. Of course, generally we say we need to practice virtue, we need to accumulate merit with body and with speech, and that's also important, but it is when we are not actually abiding in Mahamudra, then that is very important, that we accumulate merit. But when you are actually abiding in a state of Mahamudra, in that state, you do not need to busy yourself with various other virtuous deeds.
then semni ranglo rone setong riksong ngane mayingba lo sheli khen gumjimi so wata semte rangwa shan ti ngana ta setong senna da riksong senna ti ngana ya de zo de mayingba chi go de mayingba ji ne wo de ze namthong de ji shong na de zo ha ko ba chi ne mayingba chi ne nyamna chi ya de shen ba gum do so ma res.
And then, apart from freeing the mind in its own nature and then remaining undistracted from the indivisible state of clarity and emptiness, awareness and emptiness, there is nothing to meditate upon. So apart from abiding in a clear and empty state without distraction, nothing else needs to be done. So non-distraction is the main practice. And when a thought arises, recognize that thought and sustain clear awareness, and nothing else needs to be done.
Gom sen gom cheba mares rangji cheba mi be jun se rangji nyamna jun chi me le chi ko sa ba seminaro jun chi me ba da jun me chi ba ma ja wo so de jun ma chi ba chi ko le chen ba ma chen be chen xie de jun ma chi ba da jang ko le wo ti chi ko le song do.
And the Tantra of unimaginable co-emergence says, co-emergence is unelaborated. Therefore, it is not something to meditate upon, but the nature is an unbroken stream. So the stream is not to be cut. So there is no activity of meditation. All there is an ongoing, uninterrupted state of mindfulness.
Then ta jolam namji mayin ba chembe ke junchi ngala jang chesing wo song sim ba cha ta jolam che andro cha ne do yoro wo ti jolam che ki ta mayin ba chi go re song do wo ta ngo do yin do go da zai gom ja du zai gom ja di na di gang chi ti re an zai be jang do shong na da la shong na da do cha ne do ro ba ne do ti ga re na han sam de member zai zam do le yin do go wo ta zo chang ma mayin ba zai chi thon na. And
then during the 4 activities with undistracted, constant mindfulness, you recognize whatever thoughts arise. So the 4 activities here, when you're walking around, or you're sitting, or standing, or you're lying, basically, no matter whatever you do in any activity, be undistracted. And so normally we are quite distracted in our various activities in our day-to-day life. Sometimes we sit and we stand, we walk around, we think this and that, go here and there. So we are constantly actually distracted. So if you sustain a state of mindfulness, even throughout all of your activities, then your meditation will really develop.
这就是没了差不多有了差不多就是都还要的这种人讲的都还是这一点，在这种在口啥的，但那这种小给俺些在这就没得跟对在家了啥的，这就没了人过冬你可你也得多，这你也得这种，呀，但俺那嘛呢，让东的出口我小啥的，你那现东就在没种对在呀，小给俺些呀让看东的的西。这里期间最我这有啥的上是吧？这说起么多，这要我们都这上啥的，可他这个年过东，这就是没来这跟我说啥了？这不是这种球大样的啊，不干没来这盘啊，不干没来这盘啊，人家年轻过去，但么我是些别当妈有种多红，真的人家热心过去，热度过把些别当妈有是，人家的啥心公司。사동 총걸协会当马有是，但是人家就近公司，像他们去年协会当马有是多。
어디 담아대?
人家就近叫他们有了，就近我们叫他们去年协会当马有是，但不是像叫他们这用的样子都是，但是这种是吧
And also about Milarepa, another story. He was again in Yanang, the same place, meditating in a cave, and he was together with his disciple Rinpoche, and so Milarepa was staying in a lower cave, and Rinpoche was staying in the upper cave, and so one time. In the early morning, Milarepa came to see, Rinpoche came to see Milarepa in his cave. And then when he entered Milarepa's cave, he saw Milarepa was still lying there asleep. And then Rinpoche thought to himself, yeah, so he had his head wrapped in his robe and was sleeping there, Milarepa. And then Rinpoche, when he saw that, he thought that, well, my guru, for his own sake, he has already accomplished his own purpose. But then for the sake of others, it would be nice if he would get up a little bit earlier and do some practice and maybe pray for others. It would look much better than lying there sleeping in so late. That's not so good. So he had these negative thoughts about Milarepa. And Milarepa knew that instantly. And then he opened his eyes and he said to Rinpoche, to recognize the luminosity, the clear light within ignorance, that is my instruction for sleep. So in the sleep, you recognize luminosity, ignorance as luminosity. And when all walking becomes circumambulation, that is my instruction for moving about. And then he said, sometimes we eat and drink. Eating and drinking is my instruction, my practice of a feast offering, a tzog offering. And sometimes we do all sorts of things. We engage in activities. And when engaging in activities, it is my practice to recognize them all as dharmata, or as reality itself, all things I do.
那他就是真的，这老种错呢都客家话吧，现在很多是，我但错呢客家话吧呢，错呢了我说，但我们家对，但那么多的出别的是错呢，但是你们要不起的呢，错呢客话吧呢，错呢客话可是有话呢，什么选择个的，这学生对的呢，去几个强着个我晓，那么多的是错送了，但开嘛，时间错呢是错，虽然我们讲来红的是，我们讲来红的呢。可能能多点我们强着个的是，我听的说那人家都是，这有人讲别个，有人这个有人头讲别，马家讲让那事情吧，叫他们那边通把这通节讲完，意思我听，这里有人不，你们就是那光讲马家呢，做光讲来红呀，我听就清楚了，这叫他们细细讲光下红呀，我听就有的是同这个节讲完一的是，讲的是。
And then the text it says, so then when you as you recognize whatever thoughts arise, they dissipate like drops of rain and flakes of snow falling into a sea or falling into a lake. So when you, as you meditate, thoughts will arise. And if those thoughts arise within a state of undistracted mindfulness, they will arise, but as they arise, they will dissolve again, just like snowflakes dissolving in a lake the moment they touch the lake. So, in other words, it is okay for thoughts to arise. As if you always return back to your meditation, your mindfulness, the thoughts can arise within this mindfulness, and then the thoughts themselves become your practice, become your mindfulness. And then, thus, when mindfulness is maintained for an extended time, the awareness of clarity and emptiness becomes utterly naked, even during the four activities. This is called the experience of spontaneous abiding. So then, if you practice this for a long time, eventually you will be in a meditative state, in a state of mindfulness, naturally and constantly. So even if you're not actually deliberately trying to meditate or sitting down for meditation, meditation just is there naturally. Even if you're not deliberately practicing, you're always in this meditative state. So that's then the spontaneous abiding.
tene da long so da te karen do san mai sem ji rang ke rang la da rang ke teni rang ke do jor na yin men sem jang chi cha za chen bo xian ce ma rang ro de wa chen bo ngang se ran do da wa da ze yu ring bo nyam na chi de na da sam sam te gom ja ma go ne na na to cha za chen bo gang sha rang ge re wa dan bo zo rang yi pa chuan ro ya wa tene sem ke ne ro rang ne do ya ten tu yong ge re song do.
And then it is said, undistracted mind looks at itself. If it realizes its own suchness, even distracted states of mind appears as Mahamudra, the mode of great bliss, wherein characteristics are self-liberated. And so if you meditate for a long time, if you habituate to meditation, sometimes Mahamudra just happens on its own. Even if a thought arises, the thought will naturally arise as Mahamudra. So whatever arises becomes the natural state of Mahamudra.
ta chi tene ta ngarang so ti kom ja yin sta kan ru jam na ti ta kom ja sang ti ram da do kha sang chi ne ti yu so so khare ka na ti kom ri do ta ta ti kom dang ti ru sem ma chu ba sha nyam na chi song do o te kom shu na da sem ngo wu ra ta kom go na do ten kom shu na ta khare kom pa ti sing ngarang so kom ja yin.
So now we will meditate again for a little bit. And you can meditate on any of the methods we have mentioned, for example, any of the shamatha methods or this method here, where you just rest in an unfabricated natural state and look at the nature of your mind. So whichever one you prefer. So now let's meditate for a bit. Do you have any questions?
So we were talking about Rigpa and what it is, but I think for me it would be beneficial to explain what is Marikpa, right? Because in English, ignorance is simply not knowing or knowing something incorrectly. And I just wonder if the word Marikpa is exactly the same as here in English, ignorance, or does it entail more? So could Rinpoche give more explanation of what is Marikpa? What does it do? What are some of its qualities? And I think they'll be helpful for me at least to understand what is Rigpa.
Marpa, Milao, yes.
Non Juba Yiji, Namshetis, Non Juba Yiji, Namshet, Matotune, Maredis, Matotune, Maredi, Legion Gunji, it's Chisais, Donna Rare, Yeshet,
Tupangatis Kyokranji.
Non Juba Yiji, Namshede, Matotune, Maredi, Legion Gunji, Chisais, Donna Rare, Yeshetis. Oh, then the Gaboyon, the Zobanjums. Oh, that's all right. Let the do that you want to say.
Milarepa explained that the consciousness, the inner moving consciousness, when not realized, is called ignorance or marikpa, right? And not realized it becomes the basis of all afflictive emotions. If realized, it itself is self-knowing, primordial awareness, and it is the basis of all perfect good qualities.
There's one question on the Zoom.
In the Zoom, oh, there's one question here. Oh, there's a couple questions. So, is the meaning of union the same as inseparable? Does union of two things become a third new thing? Die Sungjuk seadiram Sungjuk dim Yerva Sungjuk getanda derva Sungjuk getanda di Yeva meba getanda reves Yana di Nirva pena domba seba ninyamdo yongne samsan chala ninyamdo yona teni chalak sumba daba chaga yorva ena numpotang marbonyamdo chana teni yang hato shembachi yong yor sumbachi shep dim niga mayimbachi chando ora 가도야 많은 nga pere chitang ni nyamdo lemnarwa teni somba chagra
Oh, that bitch and Ziva, the Tomba, you put some Yorua. Zeton some Yorua, the land. Ziva said, Kakatsia, you marry Tomba, Kakatsia, Ziva, you want Tomba, Bomba, you Ziva, Tini Yama, Jiva, the some Yu Sesarwa. Ziva, you want Tomba, Bomba, you Ziva, the Kakani, but my Chiva, Chira. Kuran, Zelig, the Andelan, you marry. Yeva say, Amiba. Or that's the Ziva Jibuman, Tomba, Zeton some Yu, no,
so it's not the two things becoming a third thing. So for example, emptiness and clarity. So we call it emptiness and clarity, but actually it's a oneness. It's a oneness possessing those two qualities. So it's not as a separate this and a separate that, which join into one, which unite, but they are a oneness. So in other words, if if it is clear, if something is clear, it is also empty. If something is empty, it is also clear. So it's characteristics of one and the same thing. One thing has these characteristics. So they can never be separate, because if it is clear, it has to be empty. If it's empty, it has to be clear. So that is the meaning of union or unity. Shall I ask another question from the chat? So it's when one is meditating on shamatha, either with support or without, does one maintain the visualization of the yidam? Shine gombe kapla yana chenche yana cheme shine kare gomna yanra shine gombe kapla teni I kapla teni yidam gerem di gyongore di kapla.
제 가정티나 대성도 정보에 당 민망으로다 되고 그가 근데 장초 샘샘 탐지 좀 양내 체쇼 좀 당네 근데 라운드 담 곰 가정티나 라로 대 정보에 담 대고인데 근데 신내가 다 된체나 다 대미나 다做的提纲什么当回的정보 다 이담 차단 뭐 그러면 아 이담 곰세 아 이담 되는 신내 곰야제 총소 대이나 이담 좀 당는 거라 대 매바제 곰나 대 이담 들어 좀 당고 뭐做的다 신내提纲了
So, as we mentioned yesterday, that first, as a preliminary practice, we cultivate bodhicitta, and we think that I'm going to practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then we visualize ourselves as the Yidam deity, and then we practice shamatha with or without a focal object. And so if you practice shamatha, any of those kinds of shamatha that we mentioned, then at that point you only focus on that. So then you would not actually practice the Yidam deity. However, we also mentioned that you can use the Yidam deity visualization as another way of cultivating shamatha. And then you would focus on the Yidam deity. But if you're practicing any other kind of shamatha that we mentioned, then while you're actually practicing that, you would only focus on that and not on anything else. So there's nothing in the chat anymore.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah?
I'm on the Zoom.
Okay.
Thank you, Drupon, for your teaching so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a friend, a good friend, she is Buddhist, but she does not believe she needs a teacher or a lama. She just wants to work on her own, meditate by herself. And I tried to give her a mala one time. She says she doesn't want to do any chanting or anything, any of the things that I feel strongly that you're teaching about devotion, lama, having devotion to lama is very important to achieving higher meditation, higher understanding of Mahamudra. And so I'm wondering, is she wrong and I'm right? Or maybe is she right and I am wrong to think that she needs to have a teacher, a lama? Because I feel, I want to help her if I can, but maybe I'm wrong to think this way. What do you think?
Ini di romo di nangwa rawori ini gomga lagawduk yinang di lama de chobo choya deni tamenda chia dine gabomendok morang chipo dene morang chipo gomga lule de dina gawduk dini themachik morang la thenga chik de song kain senata morang gi senata bena lama la theba deni ngak to ya nyemba to ya dini di sam tamaran nyamen sia di pendo chembo yoris mo tatana morang di sam gedo dini kain sena nguna di sam nyamen di ya pe gona dini sanki gona dini nguna lama da tengora dini theba muge go go dini debe tamngi molo dini lama yin dini chenga ti yin dini mo ina mo dini kaya mo gos mo tempa to ya di ngak to ya dini kaya go mendos morang da gom gya ka to dini la kare da morang tempari nga norsong yana nga tempari morang norsong yana kare ris
다 들어와. 제가 곰자 잠을 열어. 곰자도 가게데 샘시대 용야치 곰자 효라데 샘시대 용야. 어때 곰자 효래. 가제 다 상지 내가 대바 단타도 상지 소비야 데 곰자 효라.我这期的他马上拿把人在上街图标每个人有呢，真的这样喇叭的电板上人怎么多了？我这样喇叭票在哪里去呢？也不人怎么多？可是那就你马上开把忙不穷了，我都什么那么的呢？他不那么的呢？真的，或者上街了吧？别像那路边间的啥呢？나로 벤치한테 다 벤치다 벤 침보래 나로 벤치한테 벤치다 침보래 된데 다 냠내한테 야고 치마지 때로 땡하라 봐 때로 땡고야 좀 생겨요 네 냠내치 하티키티 도나 때로 만데 다 땡네 어가와 몽보 지리다 단치요 봐 어텐두테 나마 땡고야 차디요 봐 어들이 가야다 티가스 내가다 거랑 the same shit you know Ven.Drupon jaje euro te chidina de so son de bakare na teraro me se mixe on the sanje to ya de zama shira sanje se te kelen ya tsu shira ja yo marwa
So there's it depends on the motivation behind meditation. So people meditate for various reasons. So some people simply want to meditate because they want to feel more peaceful and happy in their minds. Some people meditate because they want to attain enlightenment. They want to achieve lasting, true, ultimate happiness. So if she is a Buddhist and she actually wants to attain enlightenment, if that's the motivation, then you're definitely right in what you're suggesting. As we have seen with many of the past great masters, many of them have attained enlightenment, and all of them have attained enlightenment through relying on a guru. For example, even a great master like Naropa himself, he was an incredible, great scholar, but he did not really, at the early part, understand the key points of practice. And even someone like Naropa had to rely on a guru. So he relied on Tilopa as his guru and endured many hardships, not for no reason. It's so that he could attain enlightenment. So even he had to do that. So it really depends on the motivation behind. There are some people who really just want to meditate to be more peaceful and relaxed and happy. And we have to let people do, of course, whatever they wish to do. We can't impose enlightenment on them, tell them you have to practice in this way, you have to accept a belief in this. So whatever is her motivation is really, really determines that.
Thank you.
Drupon, oh, sorry, is there another question on Zoom? Oh, okay.
It's okay, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. My question is, so from the story of Milarepa and Marpa, I learned that one is letting go one's attachment to the self through devotion to a guru. But at the same time, as someone who practices with a lot of habitual energies, I also feel sometimes I can feel really attached to a guru. So I guess if you can give some advice on how to create a healthy relationship between one and one's guru. Thank you very much.
Na pena Marpa Milarepa and Avoki Lokit and Namtatin Sutena Tini Tiniti Lama Loma Pak Dervatim Wina Tangzin Ma Nyungru Tayaki Tapshi Dawarva Yamlanchi Yaki Cheturera. Yena Morang Kaptela. Di samsam la morang lama tela petik kan la kore zimba chambu lepki yorwa lama tela. Teni di en zimba yang cheda na yang tichina yak po yorwa di morang komshi pakcha ginsari. Teni lama tang morang ki nekap tela lama tang loma ki pala di drava di yang tapa yongya la kare gosari. Teni mudi chakpa chambu gina yang tichina yang tapa ingi marwa lapito.
알에 다제 라마데 대바 통나오는 저쇼레 섬도로와 대바 통나테이나 자 고대바 침보는 저쇼레 섬도 대바 지금 머리를 시야요 말해요 좀도 근데 제 벌써 이제 제가 남에게 로마를 이제 로메게 라마 이제 저번에 제 야 보여요 대치 되네 와르다 마루아 데 말라레 봐도 저도 말라레 봐베 말베 두고 침보데 지당으로 오늘 현재 이제 봐도 고당야래 고당 토비요 말이다 지당으로 하셔도 이제 어디서 저한테 말베게 말라레 봐 되게 잡잖아 이 정도 만약 오늘 이제 말베게 담보 보내 가마도 자주 가라서 야보디 하나 되게 쓰이나 되지야 말라레 봐 되게 잡잖아 인세세 탐게 친다 되는 지요로 네 제가 일단은 lama drwa lama so the drwa te tempo na chia khechi bore samdo
So as long as you have devotion and a pure perception towards the guru, you're going to be okay. It's important in order for there to be a good relationship between the guru and the student. There has to be a mutual trust. So you have to trust that guru, and the guru has to trust you. So it has to be like a real like solid a relationship based on trust. And regarding Marpa and Milarepa, as Marpa was very harsh with Milarepa, and he put him through 8 major hardships. And actually, he tried to put him through 9, but then in the end, he couldn't. So he was extremely harsh. And all of that was only in order for Milarepa to purify his negative karma, his obscurations. Actually, Marpa could have just given him food and the Dharma and all of that and not have him build all these houses in the beginning. But he saw Milarepa's obscurations and he saw that these need to be purified. And so that's why he put him through all these hardships. But so in essence, what's most important about the relationship between a guru and a disciple is that you persevere and that you stay with it with stability.
저한테 lama de teba la somyo teba dobe teba 나 제랑 타바 탐지 이제 봐 tum도요 봐 텔된 lama teba 지나 되지 teba 원 dobe teba 당외 teb아서는 lama 제 연태한테 또 통내 당마도 이제요 봐 되지 당외 teba 예치베 teb아서는 lama 이제 지나 소소 teb아지야 와다 teba 좀 여러 와 제 차흥로
And then there's 3 kinds of faith that we should have for the guru. And so the first one is called clear faith, kind of where you clearly understand. So you're inspired by that guru. And then there is you understand the qualities, and then there's a longing faith where you long for liberation. And then there's a trusting faith where you trust in all of these qualities that you have recognized in the guru, and that those qualities that you trust that it will lead to your liberation. So you need to have this kind of faith or devotion to the guru. Then in the chat, maybe.
No.
There's a follow-up question, I think from before. To confirm, when we talk about the union of 2 things, we are saying they are one entity, 2 isolates to start with. And the 2 isolates are just our conceptual mind dividing them. In this case, is it accurate to say that an Arya Bodhisattva in a meditative equipoise on the path of seeing has only emptiness as their object, meaning only emptiness appears to that mind? that numa chik sungcho kola chik diwa tangdo mi chik tini tarong chik kola diwa chitok tini ta sungcho se diram tini kung kowa tela ti tangbo ta chalada wani raba pero the mandava ni yore ram the loksu ni yore kaka ni kaka ni yore deni dini yina yang dini dinga so sem ni da so ko yore ba sem na ta di chik di re dini shamba di re sem nam to da so ko yore ba ni deni dini 장추 sempa chi ram 통람 topet 장추 sempa chik 장추 sempa 통람 topet 장추 sempa dim nyamshak debe kapla ram dini kongki tiso de dongpa nima to yo mara was dini dor duna kongki sem nangla rwa dongpa nima to shen kayang mindok 아니 저는 송토들라 양니라고 저거라
당연하고 장초 선바 디셈 나라 동반이 지보면 요 말와
요르베스 코디와 당가다
这当天俺做的这种从就写的，这种交的全部我们的过去的，这种你给过去，这话过去的，东北过去的，那这个俺的东北这波影响的，东北这波的，那这个嘛，东北啊，这话没呢，别东北开些天开上来，嘛的，俺不是过干的了，这话没把过，哦，这呢，你们有钱没过都这个的，你们有钱没钱把没把，哦，这是我们这个嘛的种多，哦，这那个这。过前拿了的，别讲两年前东北人了，东北讲这话用呢，这生的用呢，真的，这话这些看下这拍个，然后这话就看下这做不到过嘛，不然看我这话强着去的，这通送就，这话有的，那东北现在我不差不多有嘛听你去，我这通是送就现在强着去嘛的，听人家嘛看下你工作我要有嘛的。
So now when a bodhisattva meditates, there's just emptiness. If it's just emptiness, it's not actual emptiness. Because actual emptiness, the true abiding in emptiness, has that quality of clarity. And emptiness and clarity are not to isolate things to start with, which then are joined into one. We speak about different qualities that one thing possesses. So if one thinks there's just emptiness, it's actually not completely correct. If there's no clarity, it's not authentic emptiness. So you mentioned in the story yesterday about a rishi who just stays in a state of indifference, kind of a blank state of indifference that seems to be like emptiness, but it's not actual true emptiness, the true nature of emptiness, because there is no clarity in a blank, indifferent state. So then the very nature of true emptiness is that it is clear. So emptiness is clear. So it's not that there is clarity and emptiness, but emptiness is clear. So it's a quality that it has. So how can you separate that from it? Then it wouldn't be that anymore.
Yeah, that is it.
So then we continue with more questions and so on in the afternoon.
Yeah, maybe this logic and some dedication.
Page 17. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate root of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Sharavaka or Puratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading maras, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such, and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in a bardo.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Drupon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
膝盖过去你把的哇，膝盖过去的你把的。
Meeting again at Chicago time at 2 o'clock.
So hungry and thirsty. I didn't drink, I didn't eat.